When she left, I rebuilt everything. Have you ever wondered what happens to the people who walk away thinking they've won? Today's story is about exactly that. Welcome back. Let's get into it. The morning our divorce was finalized, Elena looked like she'd just been handed the keys to a new life. She was already on her phone before we'd even left the courthouse steps, laughing at something, glowing in a way I hadn't seen in years, not around me anyway. I stood there in a suit I'd worn to 6 months of mediation, watching the woman I'd spent 9 years loving walk toward her car without a single glance back. She kept the house. She kept the car. She kept most of what we'd built together. I walked away with a duffel bag and a 1-bedroom rental above a dry cleaner. 3 years later, at a fundraising gala downtown, she grabbed my sleeve like she was trying to keep from falling and asked me something I never expected to hear from her again. My name is Daniel Cross, and this is the story of how starting over from nothing turned into the best thing that ever happened to me. 9 years ago, I was a junior analyst at a mid-sized accounting firm, making decent but unremarkable money. Elena worked in brand marketing at a fast-growing startup, always networking, always chasing whatever came next. When she said yes to marrying me, I felt like I'd somehow gotten away with something. Our wedding was small because that's what our budget allowed, not what she'd pictured. I remember catching her scrolling through other people's destination weddings on our own honeymoon, a look on her face I chose not to examine too closely. The first years were fine, not thrilling but steady. We got a house in a quiet neighborhood, adopted a mutt named Baxter, fell into a rhythm. Then, somewhere around year 6, the rhythm broke. She started staying late at the office. She joined a gym with early morning and late night classes that somehow never overlapped with my schedule. New friends, new vocabulary, new complaints. "You never want to do anything, Daniel," she told me once, when I suggested a quiet weekend instead of another work mixer. "You're just comfortable with average." I tried. New restaurants, spontaneous trips, anything to close the gap. Nothing landed. The trips weren't exciting enough. I wasn't enough. She told me she wanted a divorce on a Thursday evening, sitting across from me at the kitchen table with an expression that told me the decision had already been made. This was just the announcement. "I'm not happy," she said. "I want more than this." I asked if there was someone else. She hesitated a half-second too long before saying it wasn't relevant. That hesitation told me everything. His name was Marcus Wade, a consultant at her firm with a downtown loft and a car worth more than my annual salary. Everything I supposedly wasn't. The split was ugly. Her attorney made sure of that. The house, bought largely with money I'd inherited, went to her. So did the car. So did most of the savings I'd been the one mainly funding, since Elena preferred spending on clothes and travel. "You'll bounce back," her lawyer told me flatly during mediation. What he didn't say was that she'd already started bouncing forward, into a life with Marcus, long before the papers were signed. On the day it was finalized, Elena showed up looking ready for a celebration. White dress, styled hair, phone practically glued to her hand. I watched through the courthouse window as Marcus spun her around in the parking lot and kissed her like they were in a movie. I stood there for a long time afterward, trying to figure out exactly when I'd become invisible to her. That night, I moved into a studio above Marchetti's dry cleaning on Ashford Street. Rent was $750. The whole place smelled like steam and starch. I owned a futon, a folding table, and 3 of everything from the discount store down the block. My younger brother Ryan called that first night. "You okay?" Define okay. "Come stay with me and Priya, we've got room." "I need to do this on my own." "Do what on your own?" "Figure out who I am without her." For the first month, I barely functioned. Work, takeout, silence, repeat. My manager, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Diane Whitfield, eventually pulled me into her office. "Daniel, you look like you haven't slept in weeks." "I'm managing." "Take a week. Sort yourself out. Your desk will be here." That week became the hinge my whole life turned on. The first 2 days, I did nothing but exist. On the 3rd day, something in me shifted. Not sadness anymore, but anger. Anger at Elena for making me feel small. Anger at myself for accepting it for so long. I looked in the bathroom mirror and didn't recognize the tired, soft, gray-skinned man staring back. "Who are you?" I asked him. "Not who I want to be," I answered myself. That afternoon, I signed up at a real gym 2 blocks away. No smoothie bar, no ambiance, just iron and people who looked like they'd survived something. The guy at the counter, built like a linebacker with sleeves of tattoos, asked what I was training for. I thought about the courthouse, about Marcus's smile, about every moment I'd been made to feel like less. Everything, I said. His name was Tobias, and he became the first real friend of my new life. He taught me to lift, to push through pain, to channel the anger instead of drowning in it. "You going through something?" he asked on day 5. Not really a question. Divorce. Figured, use it, don't let it use you. I trained 6 days a week. 20 push-ups became 100. The weight came off. More importantly, my head started clearing. On lunch breaks, I stopped eating at my desk and started reading. Not novels, but books on business, money, self-discipline. 9 years in accounting, and I'd never once thought seriously about building wealth instead of just tracking someone else's. One book cracked something open in me. A simple argument that small, consistent choices compound into massive outcomes over time. I'd been thinking small. It was time to stop. I started listening to business podcasts on my commute, took online courses in financial planning, and reached out to former colleagues who'd struck out on their own to ask how they'd done it. 6 months after the divorce, I had an actual plan. Save aggressively for a year while quietly building a client base on the side, then leave the firm and start my own practice. Affordable financial consulting for small business owners who couldn't afford the big firms. Diane thought I'd lost my mind. "You're giving up stability for a maybe?" "I'm giving up small for something that's actually mine." She studied me for a moment. "You're different than you were 6 months ago." "Not different, just done being soft." The next year was brutal. 40 hours at my day job, another 35 building the business on nights and weekends, running on fumes. I picked up 5 clients, then 15, then 23 by month 11, all through word of mouth and over-delivering on every promise. I never stopped training either. The gym became meditation, therapy, and proof all in one. By the time I left the firm to run cross-financial advisory full-time, I'd dropped 40 pounds and put on muscle I didn't know I had. Diane shook my hand on my last day. "Proud of you, Daniel. You proved me wrong. You're the one who gave me the week off that started it." Guess I helped prove myself wrong then. Year 2 was about refinement. An assistant, Priya's cousin Mira, who kept me organized in ways I never could alone. A small downtown office, better systems, better software. My client roster grew past 50, then 100. I wasn't just moving numbers around anymore. I was helping a restaurant owner avoid bankruptcy, helping a single mom launch an online shop with a plan that actually worked, helping a retiring teacher set up something to leave his grandkids. The work meant something. I meant something. I bought a condo, smaller than the house I'd lost, but entirely mine. Bought a car I actually wanted, started dressing like someone who cared about himself, not to impress anyone, just because it felt right. At Thanksgiving that year, Ryan did a double take. "You look like a completely different person, Cam. I mean, Daniel." "I am one." "You hear from Elena at all?" "Blocked her everywhere. Haven't thought about her in months." That was true, mostly, until Mira mentioned offhand that she'd seen engagement photos online. Elena and Marcus, a spring wedding planned in wine country. "Good for them," I said, and meant it. Then came the gala. One of my clients sat on the hospital foundation's board and invited me, mostly for the networking. I almost skipped it. Black tie wasn't really my world, but something told me to go. Tailored tux, fresh haircut, walked in feeling like myself for the first time in that kind of room. I was mid-conversation with a prospective client about his restaurant group's expansion when I felt eyes on me. I turned and there was Elena, 20 feet away, champagne glass frozen halfway to her mouth, staring like she'd seen a stranger wearing a familiar face. She crossed the room slowly. "Daniel! Elena! I almost didn't recognize you." 3 years will do that. "You look really good. What have you been doing?" "Living," I said. She laughed, a little nervously, and held up her left hand, a ring that probably cost more than my old car. "We're engaged. Marcus is on the hospital board." "Congratulations." Marcus appeared a moment later, hands settling on her lower back, eyes assessing me the way men do when they're trying to figure out if they should be worried. "This is Daniel," Elena said. "My ex-husband." Said like I was ancient history. Marcus's expression shifted. "Cross-financial advisory. You're the one who restructured the Delgado Restaurant Group's expansion. Good work. Thank you. Elena looked between us, thrown. You two know each other? By reputation, Marcus said. Your firm's making a name for itself in the small business space. For a moment, the three of us just stood there, an awkward little triangle. Elena kept touching her ring, kept glancing at me like I was a puzzle she couldn't solve. Daniel, she finally said, could I steal you for a minute? Marcus frowned, but let her lead me toward a quieter corner, away from the noise. Do you remember me? She asked softly, and something about the question landed like a slap. What kind of question is that? I mean us, the way things were. Looking at you now, it's like that version of you doesn't exist anymore. He doesn't, I said. He died in a studio apartment above a dry cleaner. I built this one from scratch. Her eyes filled. I made a mistake. I didn't feel triumphant hearing it. I didn't feel much of anything except calm. You didn't make a mistake letting go of a version of me who was never going to make you happy. You were right to leave. But look at you, successful, confident. You're exactly the kind of... I became this for myself, I said. Not for you, not for anyone else. I still have feelings for you, Daniel. I think I always will. You're engaged, Elena. You're planning a wedding in wine country. You're living the life you said you wanted. I thought I did. But seeing you tonight... The man standing in front of you exists because you left, I said quietly. You did us both a favor. Go back to Marcus. He clearly loves you. Build something real with him. But don't stand here and call the best decision of both our lives a mistake. She was crying by then, quietly, mascara starting to smudge. So we just pretend none of it mattered? It mattered. It's just over. Let it be over. How are you this calm? Don't you feel anything? I actually considered the question. Anger, no. Sadness, no. Regret, not even close. I feel grateful, I said. Grateful you had the nerve to end something that wasn't working. Grateful it forced me to rebuild. Go be happy, Elena. You earned the chance to try. I walked away before she could answer. I didn't look back. The next morning, Mira came in looking bemused. You're not going to believe this. Elena Wade called, wants to set up a consultation for her and her fiancé. I laughed. Tell her we're not taking new clients. You sure? Positive. Some doors close for a reason. That was 6 months ago. I heard, secondhand, that she and Marcus married as planned, honeymooned somewhere tropical, bought a house that costs more than I'll clear in 5 years. Genuinely, good for them. As for me, Cross Financial Advisory just landed its biggest contract yet, a regional healthcare group that'll triple our revenue and mean hiring a team. I closed on a house last month. 3 bedrooms, an office, a yard for the dog I'm finally getting around to adopting. Nothing flashy. All mine. I'm seeing someone new too, a high school teacher named Naomi who couldn't care less about status and likes me for exactly who I am now. Ryan asked me recently if I ever think about Elena. Sometimes, I told him. Not sadly. More like remembering a book I finished a while back. Good story. Done now. You think she regrets it? Probably. Regret's just the toll you pay for the choices you make. We all pay it eventually. Any regrets of your own? I actually thought about that one. The 9 years, the divorce, the studio above the dry cleaner, the 80-hour weeks that nearly broke me. Not for a second, I said. Every bit of it made me who I am, and I like who that is. Looking back, Elena did me the biggest favor of my life without meaning to. She taught me that comfortable isn't the same as happy, that standing still is just a slower way of falling behind, and that sometimes losing everything is the only way to find out what you're actually made of. So, thank you, Elena. Thank you for leaving. You didn't break me. You cleared the ground for something stronger to grow. If this one hit home, share it with someone who needs the reminder that comebacks are real. Drop a comment with what you'd have done in Daniel's shoes, and subscribe because next week's story is even wilder. Until then, the best revenge is just building a life you're proud of.